questions? You guys want to ask anything since it is about time probably to wrap up if I had to guess? Nothing? Covered it so effectively?
I have a 6-year-old that eats all the time.
Okay.
And she doesn't choose healthy things, but is she eating out of boredom or is she hungry? And a lot of times I'll say, oh, you're just bored. Let's go do something else. But that kid begs for something to eat. And it's not like I lock it in the cabinet and say, no, you can't have it. Because I do let her graze. I mean, to the point where supper comes and it hardly gets touched.
Well, I was going to say, you probably do want to implement meal times and some structures relative to that, not rigid structure. Because if she's not eating with the family, if she's not...
We all sit down,
but she's not
she
eating.
picks, and then she leaves in her plates, 3/4 of the way. It's still there.
Yeah. That could develop some problems, not necessarily a true eating disorder, kind of a precursor to that. But like the physicians would say, don't let their appetite dictate them. But her appetite is not being used at appropriate times. So it might not be necessarily boredom, but she's not developing the appropriate hunger signals. Which that's another thing I can talk about with severe anorexics. They lose their hunger signal. They don't feel it after a certain point at all, and it becomes another separate part of treatment. We have to help them become more aware of it again. At 6 years old, that's probably not the case. But it probably is more important to talk about maybe family structure, to it. But especially if she's making healthy choices, that's great.
Yeah, she's not chubby or anything. I mean,
yeah,
it's just that she eats all the time.
But not at meals.
Right, exactly. And even at
meals.
mealtime, I'll say, if you don't finish that, you don't get a snack until 7 o'clock. And we eat at 5, so that's a 2-hour stretch. And by 6:30, she's down in.
Okay. Well, you might want to find what works for her, but you might have to do some experimenting, perhaps on it. But I would definitely probably pay attention if she's not going to eat at the meals, because then she's going to be hungry, like you said, later, afterwards, and that's going to be setting up a time that could be an issue. So. Any other questions? Did you have a question?
If you eat for comfort, is that a disorder?
Well, if it is, most of us
I know I'm going to feel better if I eat this chocolate cake.
Do you feel better if you eat the chocolate cake? That's the question I ask people. Do you feel better?
I feel comforted, but then I'm mad at myself.
While you were eating it, you feel good.
Yeah.
But immediately afterwards, remorse, shame,
then I
disappointment,
wish I
frustration.
was bulimic.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Darn it, if only I was good enough. Then I would say that you are probably doing what almost all of us do. But you're using it as a coping skill, and it's not a healthy one. Now, there's worse ones. And if you do it on a regular basis, that could be an issue. What I tell people when they come in and they want to talk about how do we healthy diet, how do we do it appropriately, as I encourage people, before you eat, first of all, you keep food in one location. You don't have it throughout the house. Keep it in one location, and before you go to eat, you ask yourself, what am I feeling right now, physically and emotionally? Am I bored? Am I upset? Do I want to smack my husband? But what could be the issue? And if I'm hungry, go eat. That's fine. Whether it's a mealtime or not, probably. But if you're not really hungry, then why are you eating? Oprah always talked about throwing a party in her mouth when she would feel down, and that when she had to stop doing that is when she was able to maintain good weight recovery. So.
But shouldn't you only eat if you're hungry? I mean, I get talked to about this a lot. Not by my family, but by some people around me about not, because I don't eat I've never eaten 3 meals a day. Sometimes I might only eat once a day, and I might not eat much. But if I'm not hungry, I don't see the point in eating.
Well, I'm sure that dietitians would have quite a bit to say about that, because you do need to get all your nutrients in, and it's not likely you're going to be able to get all your caloric and nutrient intake in with 1 meal a day.
Because I probably do have an eating disorder, but it wasn't included in any of those that
So disordered eating,
yes,
perhaps might be what
yes, I fit into the disordered eating part. But if I'm not hungry, I don't see, I mean, if you eat and you're not hungry, then you have a sick feeling. Or I do, you have an uncomfortable feeling because you weren't hungry to begin with.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that you necessarily have to have a full 3-4 course meal, but making sure you're maintaining your caloric intake, especially if you're still active. If you have to, it has to match what you're taking in versus what you're burning out. And that's where weight loss obviously is going to happen in an unhealthy way if you're not taking in enough.
You normally suffer with that, but you also have to burn more than what you take in too to keep from getting bigger
Right.
too.
They recommend, what, 1,800, 1,750 to 1,800 is probably what they're going to recommend, which is good. And I'll encourage people actually to do that. But
Well, and like she was talking about with the kids, is it healthy for you, because I've always thought that it was probably unhealthy to eat late at night. You know, to have like a bed, I don't believe in bedtime snacks, because that's, to me, I've always heard that's bad for your digestive system. Is that true?
actually, there was a pretty interesting study that just came out that talked about how diets don't work. And one of the things they talked about is that your body doesn't know what time it is. The calories don't know what time it is. Actually, your body kind of does know to a certain
Yeah,
extent.
because your metabolism drops,
It does
and starts
slow,
slowing down.
But they say not as much as we think that it does. It is an issue in terms of for your heart. It is not healthy to have significant meals before you go to bed because it's a lot of work on your heart. And that's probably a better question for the physician. But it is something that we don't encourage is late eating. But they talk about it that one of the healthiest diets is what we used to do like 1,000 years ago, which was sort of the hunter-gatherer type of phase, and people ate every 3 to 4 hours. That's what we think, and it maintained a healthier metabolism, throughout the rest. But an additional factor that I probably should have talked about is a primary treatment issue. Once we address dangerous eating behaviors and get on a healthier schedule with eating, is we address what is almost always present with any of these eating disorders is anxiety and depressive issues. And those things can significantly impact your appetite. And so those are things to be aware of as well. So if you talk about not really having much of an appetite, you need to know if you're the type of a personality or an individual that could struggle with either of those traits at all that could suppress your appetite. And then of course, no, you wouldn't be hungry, but if you were the type of person who's real anxious and you're not hungry, you could waste away to nothing if you just based on your hunger signals. So there's probably a few things to talk to somebody about. And as a general rule, when people ask me, how do we know when I should talk to somebody? When do I seek treatment? And what I said, this is true probably for any diagnosis. There's 3 questions that I have people ask themselves. First of all, do you wonder if it's an issue? Then yeah, you should go talk to somebody. If you're wondering, go talk. If somebody else tells you, you should go talk to somebody, or they're wondering if it's an issue for you, go talk. Or if it interferes with your functioning in any way, whatever it is. If it interferes with the functioning, academic, occupational, social, sleep and appetite, if it interferes with your functioning in some way, you should go talk to someone. And so that's a rule that probably applies for any diagnosis. Good questions. Thank you for asking.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, Dr. Dalton. I very much appreciate you coming tonight. These last few sessions, these are topics that I'm not necessarily an expert in. I don't even know what an expert is, actually. I don't have much knowledge in these things, and so I have brought in external experts, and you just happen to be the last one for the last episode of It's a Brain Thing. So, and I want to thank you guys. Exactly, save the best for last. That's right. Don't tell Chris that, though. He might watch this on the internet.
Second.
Chris and Dr. Beauchamp and Dr. Dalton are partners, so they'll see each other. So we give him too much of a hard time, he'll know about it. But anyways, thank all of you. I thank all of you guys too for coming out and supporting us, supporting this every month, and hopefully you got something out of it. I think folks from around the world have. I just got a message on the internet from I put it on YouTube, and just a real quick story. A counselor from the United Arab Emirates, I assume it's Saudi Arabia.
I'm going to guess.
She sent me a little message saying that she's working her way through the videos and watching them, and just wanted me to know that I reached, all the way over to the Middle East. So, yeah. So hi Nadia. Thanks for the support, and hopefully there's other folks around the world. I know there are folks from Australia and China. I've heard from people all over the place. So Sweden, yeah. So some pretty neat stuff. So hopefully folks will get something out of this. And if you missed any of these, you can always get on the internet, and they're all on there now. So any of the topics that you want to hit and watch over again, you can do that. So again, thanks very much, and everybody have a good evening.